Partner, Mr. Jerry Franklin Poe. And today we have an exciting show for you guys. We're going to be talking about AI and physical computers and everything you need to know that's actually going on in the market and probably some things you didn't need to know. So I'm excited to share with you guys what we got going on. Listen, if you're checking us out live, tell us where you're tuning in from, hashtag live in the comments. And if you are catching us on the replay, hashtag replay, and let us know where you're tuning in from. We really appreciate you tuning in to us for this show. And so we're going to get started and share everything we have for you this week, starting right now.
That's right, folks. We're back at it again. Technology Tuesday. Greg Russell here in the building. Jerry Franklin Poe with you. And we're here every week, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, bringing you practical knowledge, practical solutions, practical applications for your business to help you create that lifestyle where you can get to that seven-figure path as quickly as possible.
Yes, sir. And so today we want to talk about how AI is affecting your local personal computer. So, Jerry, listen, man, one of the things that I don't think people realize is that because of AI, it is bringing a lot more attention to your actual personal computer and the machine you actually have in your computer. So, for most of us, we think about AI as logging on to a website, asking questions, and getting answers. And for a majority of people, that's kind of what they have experienced. But today, we're going to show how that experience is evolving and how your local computer and how you set it up and how you run it can have a massive effect on how you use AI. So before I dive into the details, is there any questions you have just so that I'm on the same page, or anything you want to share before we get started?
No, I think this is an interesting topic because trends are really important when it comes to technology. And we were on a certain trend before AI. I don't know if everybody saw AI coming, and now that has put us on a different trend. So I think this would be eye opening for people to understand because some people may not even know that there is an issue in the marketplace.
Issue? Yeah, it'd be a great issue if you were a computer company, or a specific computer company. Um, but yeah, so basically, at the beginning of this year, um, the ability for AI to control your computer came out in a couple models. And so Claude has dropped its desktop software that can now control your computer. OpenAI recently released their desktop app, which can control your computer, called Codex. And there's some others out there. And then there was a lot of uh, activity interest in something called OpenClaw, which was a program that allowed, again, for it to control your local computer. And so, because when you go from just asking questions to actually using AI where it's actually doing tasks on your computer as if it were you, then it needs certain access and permissions. And so, when you can have a program that can access your own files, then you have the ability to give it instructions called prompts or skills, and it can go do those things. And if the skill or the prompt has the ability to access your computer or control your browser or things like that, then it can actually do more work than just tell you what to do, right? And so the second layer level to this is being able to set up agents to be able to work on your behalf. So what that does is look at how, for you to have privacy, or even control, to be able to give those agents actually files and things on your computer. And that's when it starts to think about how is this set up on your local machine. So, Jerry, this first step is to be able to set up a way for you to give these AI programs that control your computer access to certain files, where you can limit it where they can't have all the access, but they can have some access that you want. And part of that is giving them a place where you can put these files. And a lot of times, most of the agents that we are talking about use something called markdown files, and this is where they can go read these files, and you can read them too. It's just a special kind of text file that has the instructions for them to use. And how you set these up on your local computer determines how efficient you are with your tokens, how fast it can grab information, how fast it can actually complete the task. So when you graduate from level one, from just asking questions in a browser to basically giving it instructions on your local machine, then you're going to a different level. And this is different than giving the instructions inside the actual platform. And so, Jerry, you and I had an experience with a program years ago called Evernote. And at the time, it was great. And well, yeah, you and I both used it, and we put all our files into Evernote, and then Evernote got bought and sold, and it changed, and everything changed. And then it was like, okay, we want our stuff out of Evernote. And it was a real problem because over those years, we had put so much into Evernote. And right now, these AI platforms are the same. Each one of them is trying to get you to put their prompts and skills and instructions inside their own platform. And as they change and develop new things, you are locked into that one. And that's what they want. They want you to be locked into their platform because it's a competition. But Jerry, the best way to set this up is when you put the files on your own computer and you tell the AI to go look here instead of uploading your files into that own machine. So that's kind of where I want to just see what your thoughts are, see if you have any questions, because I know you keep me on track with when it comes to the tech and the everyday language, so I don't get too technical for people.
No, I think you're good. I think what has been happening in the past is we were trending towards, hard drives where the physical hard drive was smaller space because people are using the cloud. And now, because these AI tools can actually access information on your computer, your physical computer, there's a trend to like, okay, well, for speed, efficiency, the more space I have, the better. How do I get the space back again? So the trend has switched from condensing, right? And this happens all the time, right? So, we look at smartphones, and there was a time where the smartphone, well, excuse me, not the smartphone, let's just say the mobile phone, right? There was a time where mobile phones were really big. Then they're like, well, how can you get the smallest phone possible? Right? I remember there was a movie called Zoolander that came out with Ben Stiller, and the phone was like teeny tiny flip phone that he had, and it was like the smaller your phone, the more uh you know expensive it was. And now we're back to like the bigger screen phone. People want a bigger phone because they're watching movies and stuff on it. So the trend is following where the technology goes in terms of how we're using the technology, right? The phone switched because we went from just a mobile phone that was just calling people to a phone where now you are watching videos and making movies and stuff on your phone. Computer was like, well, I can store my files in the cloud because I don't need everything on my computer. And now, because the AI is accessing information on your machine, we need to have them stuff back on the computer again.
Yep, yep. So now the computer is being more important in terms of uh, setting up these files. And so what happened in the marketplace is that Apple came out with a product called the Mac Mini. Now, the Mac Mini is just a CPU. It's not a laptop. It is not quote unquote a desktop. It is just the CPU, and you need to bring your own keyboard, mouse, and screen, and then now you can have your computer. It was a low priced model for someone to be able to have a Mac operating system without having the high price tag of purchasing a Mac computer or a MacBook Pro. And so the Mac Mini's been out for many years, but in around between 2019 and 2021, Mac decided to come out with their own chip, and one of the first computers they came out with was the Mac Mini M1. And these Mac Minis before AI were starting to get more popular because of the price tag. It had the same processing power with their new at that time M1 processors without the big price tag. So it started to pick up back then to get a little bit of attention because now you could get a Mac without the higher price tag, and it was the same processing power. And so they continued to develop the Mac Mini. They came out with the M2 a couple years ago, and then in 2024 they came out with the M4, their fastest one yet. And again, same thing. The price for the M1 when it first came out in 2019 to 2020 was $499, and then when it came out with the M4, it is $599. And right now, with AI, because people were looking to how can I set up agents on my own computer, and it was the perfect system for something like OpenClaw or Claude Code to set up this on the local computer, and so that you could have it contained. And so what people were doing, they were saying, oh, for $600, I could just go get this other machine and I can run it on there, and I don't have to worry about it having access to all my stuff on my real machine. So it got even more popular and people started buying them up. And as of recently, you cannot find a Mac Mini M4 anywhere. They are pretty much sold out. They're sold out on Amazon, Best Buy, B&H, anywhere you look. They are gone. So they have, and as of a few days ago, Apple decided that they are no longer making any more M4 Mac Minis. They are done. And so until they come out with their next product, the M5, it's going to be hard to find a computer, a Mac Mini, for the purpose of AI agents because it is the perfect machine for AI agents to run. It's small, it's cheap, it's inexpensive, and it's really a good computer. That's the perfect storm for that. So because of the popularity of the processing that came out and the popularity of being able to run AI on the machine, it is no longer sold out. And so now we're at a point where you can't even buy one if you want one. So it's a great position for Mac to be in because they basically sold out all of their product, which has never technically happened before. You could always go on their website and order something. They never had a time when they said they're not ordering one. Never has there been a time where they either haven't allowed you to get something or had the new one where you could pre-order it. So this is kind of the first time, and it's all because of the AI agents being able to run on these Mac Mini machines that they have been sold out. So that's what's going on in the
Yeah.
marketplace, man. The other thing is that in addition to being able to run the Mac, run these AI agents on your machine, you can also now, Jerry. This is privacy has been a real thing. People concerned about putting the information into these LLM platforms, but you can actually download a whole LLM and run it locally on a Mac Mini as well. So this is the last phase right now that people are exposed to. They're able to download an LLM. Um, Let me see here. I'll tell you. There's a service called LM Studio, right? And so you can go and find the models, and it'll tell you if your computer can run it or not. And again, the M4 was a perfect machine because it was power enough to run most of the models. You could download the model and then run it. And so now, instead of sending your data out to an LLM on the internet for that LLM to be able to have all of that information, you can now control it all on your local machine by downloading the LLM and running it there. And so if you have an LLM and you have something called LM Studio to be able to run it, you can then get something like Claude Code. And instead of directing it to a folder, you just direct it to the IP address of that machine. And now it can basically call its local LLM to be able to process and give you the answers and do most of the things that it could do without it costing you as much because now you're running it locally instead of relying on the one online. And you have the privacy because you're not sending your data online, you're just sending it to your local machine. And that's kind of the best of both worlds. And when you think about computing and where we're going, that I truly believe that's the future, right? Being able to have a LLM, a large language model, on your own machine where you're not feeding your own data into a service like ChatGPT, Anthropic, Claude, Perplexity, Google, etc. So that's the future, and that's what we need to have our eyes on about what's coming in the near future with AI and these AI agents.
Yeah, man. I think it's one. It's like, as you said earlier. It's good for Apple for their bottom line, but I don't think people knew or saw this coming. So that's why it's like creating such a demand. Like I didn't know until you mentioned it to me and I started you were like, look for this. And I was like, well, okay, well, let's see if I can find it. And I was like, man, yeah, you're right. This thing isn't anywhere. It's like you can get like an old one for double the price. Like somebody had like restored it, right? But it's not showing up a new device anywhere. And I live in an area where like you should be able to get this type of stuff. So it's like I'm not like in between Philadelphia, you know, Wilmington, Delaware, um, all these major hubs. You think it'd be someplace to be found?
Yeah.
Not a chance.
No, it's really difficult to find unless you find someone who is charging double for it, or several $100s more than what it actually costs you. You can find some people who are willing to get rid of them, and they'll just wait for the next one. But then that kind of defeats the purpose of having it be super the affordability. But it all depends. That's the law of supply and demand, right here, right. We can see it right here, right now, when it comes to these Mac Minis and running local AI agents on your local machine. So if you've never seen, I don't know how I did that. That was interesting. I don't know how I did that. Let's just try to fix it right quick. Fixing the studio, because I know what happened. I didn't lock it. See what happens when you don't lock it? There we go. Now let's lock it. All right, so uh, let's go here. All right, so here we have, this is lmstudio.ai, and this is run AI models locally and privately. So like you can download it on your computer. And then if you go look at the models, and there's the most popular models, the Anthropic Claudes, the OpenAI, ChatGPTs, but there's a whole bunch of other ones too, right? You'll start seeing names that you haven't heard of before, and these are all people are trying to create, and companies are building their own large language models that you can come here and find, and some of them are popular. um, you can find some of the popular ones in here if you look, but as you look here, right, you can see how many people downloaded it. 200. No, now I'm not sure, I'm just learning about these, so I'm not sure how many. I think this is 2.1 million people downloaded it. This is the stars, and one of these represents the size of it. So if I click on it, let's see. Yeah, so here you can see the size of it. Because these are a large language model, so these files are probably going to be pretty large. The smallest one here is 754 megabytes, but the largest one is 10.7. I'm sorry, it is 15.6 gigabytes. So you got to make sure you have enough space on your computer. But long story short, you can come here and download a LLM and run it on your local machine. Now, there's some things you have to do that. There are tutorials on YouTube. I haven't done this yet, and I'm not sure I will, but I just want you to be aware of what I think is the future of running AI agents on your machine, and the importance of how we're seeing this trend of it going from everything online to now more local, because on your local machine you can have some privacy, and you can have some more control over what data you are feeding these companies. So just take a quick look at it just so you guys can see. You can go to lmstudio.ai. And again, this is early in the game, so that's just one. There are going to be more coming out as time goes on. And as we know, this technology changes and shifts very, very quickly. Right now it's almost like daily something new is coming out. But the future of this will definitely be controlling what files that you have on your local machine, and what access you give these AI agents to access the files on your local machine before they go out to the internet and do stuff.
Yeah, man. I thank you for bringing it to my attention because I wasn't even aware.
Yes, sir.
But it it's the it could be slightly different for PC, like what, well, for persons of PC, we have some PC users, like Is the same thing happening on that side too, or just with the Mac?
So the PC didn't have, so yes and no. As far as something like the Mac Mini, there isn't a company that came out with anything like it. Um, so can you do all this on a PC? Yes. There's nothing that you can't do. You know, Claude software is for Mac and PC. OpenAI is for Mac and PC. The file system that we'll be talking about at another time, Obsidian, is for Mac and PC, and that's the file system that allows you to control these files for your AI agents to be able to look through, get context, and follow instructions. Is both for Mac and PC. So there's nothing you can't really do. It's just that the Mac Mini was like the perfect machine that you could just go get. It was a brand new machine that you could set up and just start to experiment and play with your AI agents on that machine and not have to put it on your actually working machine that has all your existing files and stuff in there. You can kind of just start fresh. And at that price point, people were grabbing them up and they are now sold out.
Got it.
Yeah. Because a laptop has to stay, you'd have to configure it to stay on because by default, it has to stay on. And typically, the reason why people wanted a laptop was to be mobile, right? But when you have a stationary computer like the Mac Mini and you can control it from your phone, then it could sit there and work, and then you could be out and about and check in on your agents, get updates from your agents, give instructions to your agents, and it can just go and do work, and you don't have to be stuck at the computer. So there's a lot of factors that play into having the Mac Mini at this particular point in time as a really good device for AI agents. And I also think it plays into the fact that there's a market for these low end, not low end, these lower priced computer systems. Where we just looked at how Spirit Airlines is no longer in business, and they were the low fare ticket, company. That was the company. Like if you were had a very tight budget, then that was one of the places you could go to find fares that were extremely um, low. Right, that's what their thing was. There was low fares, and so Apple has come across this low cost computing market that has extremely grown. And their recent computer, the Neo, has sold out as well. You can't find those either. And even though AI may not necessarily be pushing that particular model because it's a laptop, the fact that it is a very strong computing process computer that most people didn't think would be as strong as it was as far as how it could process, and it doesn't have all the features, bless you sir, as a regular laptop. It doesn't have speakers, right? It doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It's really just a keyboard, a screen, and a basic processing power. But with so much that you can do online, it's become again one of the ones that sold out because they wasn't expecting so many people to be interested in that lower priced product, but they found a market that is very very lucrative for them because right now that Neo, the 599 Neo is also sold out. An interesting story, Jerry, just so you know, um, when they would make their chips, right now they're on their A18, that's what they're calling it. When they would make the chip, sometimes not all of the cores would work, right? And so instead of tossing them, because one core doesn't work, right? You have six cores, and if one core doesn't work, you can't really use it in a machine that needs six cores, right? So they came out with this Neo, and the Neo only has five cores. And so when they have a six core chip and one of the chips doesn't work, they now will pile those up and put those into that machine. And what I also found out is that they only have but so many of them, and then they're no longer making the 18 chip either. So they are now starting production on their 19. So for the ones that are sold out, we're probably not, you're probably not going to find any more. And we're going to have to wait not too long until the new stuff comes out. My guess is that the newer Macs that come out will probably be a little bit more expensive. They'll probably will keep it um, inexpensive compared to the MacBook Pro, which they're going to discontinue the name. They're going to call them the Mac Ultras. Um, But my guess is that their price point, these lower price that they've experienced since the Mac Mini came out, will be higher than they were in the past. So that's also why I think there is such a demand for trying to get these Mac Mini M4s now, because the new Mac Minis that come out, we don't know with the M5, we don't know what price point they will be at. So this AI race is affecting the physical computers as well. And as far as Mac, that's the news I have in the update. And hopefully, um, we will see what PC and the on that side, what they do, what machines they come out with, and how they try to address some of these AI agent desires that a lot of entrepreneurs and people have as far as running autonomous agents locally on their local computer. All right, Charles, thank you for tuning in, bro. Appreciate that.
As they say, man, the only thing constant is change.
Yes, too. Yes, too. Great place to check from is Micro Center. I just got one from their stock several weeks ago. Yeah, I checked Micro Center, and at least online, they don't have any available. Several weeks ago is different from today. Hopefully, I'm glad you got one, bro. I don't think we can get one now. I think we done missed that window. Yes, sir. So, all right, man. Listen, Jerry, you got anything else for us, sir?
Now you're good, man.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, listen, guys, tune in every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for another episode of Technology Tuesday. If you guys are interested in learning how to create these AI agents to help run your business, join Jerry and myself at sevenfigurepath.com, and we will show you how we are building our seven-figure path using AI agents in our own businesses. With that, have a blessed week, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.